Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Brace for Impact. This time, we've got another matchcast for you. And if you've watched the channel before, you know this series is all about the decisions that happen in Armada. From list building to setup and deployment, and during the game that lead to victory or defeat. If you guys have listened to our podcast, you'll know that we're huge fans of rapid launch bays on this channel. In today's match, we're going to be taking a look at a game that really showcases the flexibility and power of rapid launch bays. For those of you that aren't super familiar, rapid launch bays allows you to place squadrons basically inside of a ship, and later during the match they can deploy from directly outside of that ship and attack the enemy. Today's list features rapid launch bays in combination with these two cards, Flight Commander and Boarding Troopers, which allows you to delay the squadron activation until after your maneuver. Combining Flight Commander with Boarding Troopers and rapid launch bays allows for a really powerful attack from a single ship, as we're going to see during this match. Let's take a look at the fleets, and we'll start with the list that I flew in this game. Alright, here's our Republic list for the day called Variety Pack. And it's called Variety Pack because I just flew one of every available Republic ship at the time. We've got an Acclimator 1, Acclimator 2, and both of the Consular Cruisers. It's a Bail Organa list with the Acclimator 2 trying to fly as a heavy battleship and the Acclimator 1 flying as a heavy carrier. We've got one Consular Cruiser shooting out munition supplies, and then we've got the other one with Clone Nav Officer and Link Turbo Laser Towers. The squadrons are the classic Lumi, Plo, and 3 V-19s. Alright, let's take a look at this Imperial fleet called Bloody Red. Starts off with Thrawn in his Victory 2. And Disposable Capacitors seems like one of the strongest ways to kit out a Victory Star Destroyer these days. And with Spinal, SW7s, and Dominator, this ship can chuck 8 dice at long range or 10 dice at medium range. So, you start here with the Victory standard attack pool, 3 red, 3 blue, add another red with Spinal, then you can add 2 blues with Dominator and then concentrate in an extra blue. SW7s makes all the blues deal damage no matter what, and Director Krennic lets you reroll any of the reds that don't work out for you. It's a pretty wicked combination. Then there's a Raider with Vader and Iden Versio to deal with the smaller threats or eliminating key upgrades off the opponent, and a Gozanti with CommsNet. The linchpin of this fleet, though, is the Quasar Fire. It's a unique ship because it has double offensive retrofit, which allows it to bring the rapid launch bays and boarding troopers that we talked about earlier. And then you grab your scariest Imperial squadrons, Jendon with Maarek, Morna Kee, and Reimer. Nasty, nasty combination to come out of rapid launch bays in the middle of a game. With the rapid launch bays build, Pace bids for first, and so he's selecting here from my objectives, Mark for Destruction, Hyperspace Assault, or Doomed Station. He really doesn't want to see Hyperspace Assault with Acclimator popping up behind his setup. Mark for Destruction would give me like a really nice blue critical advantage, so in this case Pace actually goes for Doomed Station here. With that just being the objective that he feels like he can play the most even match on. Doomed Station has the second player, which is me, place the gravity rift in the center of the setup area, and then everyone places the rest of the obstacles except for the station. And then throughout the game, at the end of every round, we alternate, basically having the obstacles be dragged slowly into the gravity rift. Alright, so we're rolling into setup here. We've got the gravity rift in the center, and Pace and I are going to start taking turns placing the obstacles. As first player, his objective really is to get as many of these obstacles on the far corners of the map as possible, and he kind of wants to not worry about them, to not think of them as part of the game. My objective is to place the station in a location where I feel like, okay, I'm going to be able to keep my capital ships near this and collect the 20 points a turn for as long as possible. So I actually put it off to the side over here. And what I want to do is have one of my ships get in the way of it so that it it can't move and it's stuck, and then I can just collect points off of it without worrying about it falling into the gravity rift. You can see that Pace actually has done a really nice job of spreading his obstacles, because as first player you'll get 3 to place on this objective. He's got 1, 2, 3 kind of all spread around really far away from each other. He knows I'm going to want to deploy near the station, so he's got the other 2 far away and 1 kind of blocking what I want to do. As we roll into ship deployment here, one of the disadvantages of the Imperial list is it has no squadron activations. There's no squadrons to pad out his deployment. So I'm going to take advantage of that here and drop a couple squadrons to kind of see where his list is going to be deployed. Now, Pace doesn't really look at this as a big problem because he knows where I'm going to be because of the doomed station. If I want to collect any objective points at all, I'm going to deploy in between the doomed station and the gravity rift. So he just drops his victory, drops his Quasar, and kind of says, okay, let's joust. And you can see he's got a nice tight formation with his fleet right here. And I've got all of the information in the world that I need to drop the acclimators, but you know, with this kind of objective, they're all going in between the Doom Station and the Gravity Rift here. I want to pause the game just for a second here and take a look at how the battlefield looks right before round 1 begins. What do y'all think of the deployment here for the Republic and for the Empire? Would you have maybe deployed differently with this setup? Leave us a comment down below and we'll respond and talk about it. Okay, so round 1. I'm going to speed through this round pretty quick as it's mostly setting up for later in the game. You'll see Pace has first player, so he's activating some of his smaller ships to see what I do. And I actually feel like going into round 1, I was in a pretty good position coming out of deployment, but I think I just handled what he did poorly here. I'm flying the Republic and thinking I'm just gonna ride slow, coast near the doomed station, soak up 20 points per turn, and kind of like make him come in to me. Eventually he's going to try to bring the Quasar in to rapid launch base, so my goal here is just pop it before it gets into range to drop all of its squadrons, and then my clams can 2v1 the victory. You can see Pace at the bottom of the screen feeding tokens to the Quasar, and for some reason this doesn't really set off any alarm bells for me. I'm just casually moving my fleet slowly forward. And I think if I was smart, I would have pushed this CR-70 out in front of the clams to try to block for what's going to happen in round 3. I'm hoping to use this CR-70 to swing around to the side of the victory, and I'm going to push a bunch of these squadrons forward, and hopefully they will help me do enough damage to the Quasar to prevent it from doom dropping me. We're wrapping up the turn here, moving all of the obstacles. Someone in the comments correct me if I'm wrong, but the way we played this was that ships would prevent the station from moving if they bumped it, but squadrons don't? I couldn't find anywhere where it talked about how do squadrons interact with moving obstacles. Yeah, we're just pulling all these, so yeah, you can see a lot of those obstacles off on the right side don't really come into play very much. You can see at the bottom of the screen the Quasar is moving at speed 1, so I felt really relaxed here, really in control of what was happening. I did not anticipate that a Quasar with a nav token and a nav command could suddenly be where it ends up in a couple of turns here. Alright, we're running into round 2. He moves his Gozanti up, and I'm just continuing to slowly move my clams forward. Trying to stay out of range of the gravity rift here. Looking back on it, I think one of the best things I could have done was this CR-70 over here should have gotten out in front of my acclimators, and he is unfortunately stuck behind, unable to be very useful here. I would like to have used him to block and prevent enemy ships from getting in range, but you know, looking back, I suppose this is probably a big problem for me, even in deployment, and he really shouldn't have been there. Taking a couple little shots in round 2 here. Trying to avoid crashing into all of my squadrons, but it actually took me forever to find the move that I was looking to do here. I'm trying to not crash the squadrons and get out of the Raiders' front arc here and kind of be positioned going sideways across the map. But eventually I find the move that I'm looking for here, and I was super proud of this. Got right out of his front arc. It was great. Alright, so we have the Quasar slowly inching forward here at speed 1, and then Navuta B activates, and I just kind of throw a bunch of squadrons into the front of the Raider here. Roll some nice damage. Navuta B, I think, is really one of the most fun titles that the Republic has at this point. Of course, for me, I am still waiting for the Venator, so maybe one day soon. Yeah, and you can see it's already getting to hull on that Raider, so that puts Pace in a position where he really is going to want to activate that first going into round 2, so that the CR-70 doesn't finish it off. And we're rolling up on the end of round 1, where we start moving these obstacles in. I do wish that I had had this acclimator farther forward to kind of block this station, because it's already kind of reached the point where I can't really stop it from moving anymore. This rock becomes a huge pain because now it's shielding the Quasar from fire. So here's the end of round 1, and here is the end of round 2. And you can see everything's just kind of moving slowly toward the center. No one's really made any big aggressive moves yet. Most of the fleets are all at speed 1, just kind of inching forward. And we roll into round 3, and round 3 is where things really get kicked up a notch. Like I mentioned earlier, Pace is going to activate this Raider to get it out of dodge here before the CR-70 can take a shot into the side of it. He rolls some dice at the Consular Cruiser and flies off into the distance. And I'm thinking, this is great. He's right in range of my acclimator. He's right in range of a bunch of squadrons. So we go with the acclimator. These squadrons start shooting at the front of the Quasar. I know I've got to burn it down before it gets into range. Jedi and V-19s with Navuta B can actually do some pretty consistent damage. And I fire an obstructed shot into the Raider, and boom, there she goes. And he inches forward. And he's here just to try to capture the 20 points from the Doom Station this round. Here, Pace moves his Gozanti up, and I'm thinking, okay, this is more fish to the slaughter. We'll activate the Acclimator 2, swivel mount some blacks in, clone gunners for the second accuracy. Boom, there goes the Gozanti. This is probably the high point of the game for me. He's down 2 ships. I've got 4. Everything's going great. But I learn a lesson here in a minute, which is firstly that you don't have to immediately counterattack with the ship that is the most obvious one to go. Sometimes it's best to delay their activations for as long as possible. Number one, I wish I had activated this CR-70 over here to the left before these acclimators. Alright, we're going to pause right here because Pace is about to send his Quasar into overdrive. He's got his navigate command and a navigate token to go from speed 1 to speed 3. He's got a squadron dial from Thrawn and a squadron token to activate 4 squadrons. He's got Flight Commander, so he's saving the activation of the squadrons until after he moves up to speed 3, right alongside my clam, drops these 4 nasty boys right in front of me, and they start going to town. In my defense, look how far this thing moved. Call me a sucker, but I had never seen a Quasar move like that before, and all of a sudden it's on my doorstep, and these squadrons start ripping into my clam. So after this Quasar finishes dumping all of his squadrons, I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got this consular cruiser here. Well, let me retaliate. So I activate it and take some shots into the rear of the Quasar, do a couple shield damage. You know, it's got 3 damage on it, so in my head I'm like, okay, we can drop this thing. Like, it's, you know, we still got time. Unfortunately, I feel like at this point now I'm fully inside of Pace's trap. He activates Disposable Capacitors on the Victory Star Destroyer, and even an obstructed shot at long range is a solid 6 damage. And then he turns over and eats my consular cruiser for breakfast using Dominator to add extra blue dice. And there she goes. So now, now you guys see, like, the screw up that I made, right? Imagine that this CR70 and this Acclimator, their positions were switched, right? The CR70 dies to, you know, the rapid launch bays drop. Now the Acclimator comes in, he's still at medium range, he can take some nice shots on the Quasar, and down it goes, and now I have 2 Acclimators versus a Victory. Like, that was the plan, but the execution was way, way off. Of course, obviously, like, he probably wouldn't have gone after a CR70 to rapid launch base drop, but, like, this guy's just doing nothing back here, right? Alright, so we roll right on into round 4 here, and of course, as first player, basically he gets a full second round of these squadrons attacking. So they turn around and start gobbling this clam for breakfast. What's crazy about this strategy that Pace pulled off is that between the Quasar moving in and attacking and then reactivating the squadrons a second time and leaving, my Acclimator had no opportunity to engage, attack, like recover shields. Like, it had no activation in that time gap. He didn't first last me, but he did wait until his target had already activated. And then he knew, okay, I'm going to activate this Quasar again at the top of the next round. Really great play, and now I'm in a really terrible position. I'm trying to send these V19s after the Quasar to do the damage to finish it off. Unfortunately, V19s are not super fast. And now he has a bunch of squadrons on the field that I am trying to deal with to protect my very last ships. The activation advantage I was so excited about having last round is totally gone. So after I use Navuta B to activate these squadrons, he's going to end up lumbering forward. Take a nice flak out the side. Because of the obstruction, you know, taking a long range shot at a Victory, you know, rolling 2 reds, not a great idea. The Victory's got me in blue range now, so he's got his full battery armament. He'll use Dominator to add some blue dice, and yowza. I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 dice right there. I'll finally move my CR70 into the battle here. Got to take some nice flak before he rolled in, so we're all very appreciative of his work. And we're about to roll into the 5th round of the game. My clam is on its last legs. Pace is going to activate this Quasar, fire off with the squadrons using Jendon's relay and double tapping with Maarek. CR-70 is going to attack, trying to flak them down. And then the Victory Star Destroyer finishes off the game here. So I learned a lot about rapid launch bays. I think if I could have done any one thing different, putting the CR-70 in front of my clam to protect it from getting doom dropped would have been huge. Also delaying some activations to try to stay out of range. But Pace made some really awesome moves with the Quasar. Jumped in, did the damage, and got out. Thanks for watching, guys. Come see us next time. And don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, comment, and have a good day.